Hello and welcome to Peace News Now. We are live this Tuesday, June 3rd, 2014. It is 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time here in Keene in the Shire, from whence we broadcast. And I'll be joined earlier in this segment by a confrontational yet polite and peaceful teen, Andrew Demeter, who confronted Nancy Pelosi earlier this week and got excellent video of it. He's been making the rounds. I think he was even on InfoWars earlier this week. And I want to read you the press release about this story. Plus, later on in the show, we're going to talk about some of the happenings in Keene. The chalk war continues. It went from cold to hot this week. Certainly got a lot to cover. We've got Rich Paul, freedom activist, going to be in studio joining us for the second hour of the program, talking about a young man who was severely injured and hospitalized this evening down in Keene Central Square. We certainly, our hearts go out to him, and we hope for a speedy recovery and peaceful future for all. Now, this Andrew Demeter of Cleveland, Ohio, doesn't yet have his driver's license. In fact, he's only 16 years old. But he has managed to confront arguably the most influential politician in the nation, Democratic leader Nancy Pelosi. Demeter was in D.C. this past month for his award-winning entry, We the People, Genetically Modified, in C-SPAN's annual and national Student Cam documentary competition. Originally, he was scheduled to shake the hands of both Senator Harry Reid and Speaker of the House John Boehner in lieu of Leader Pelosi. Demeter purchased online pocket-sized copy of the Constitution as a gift and token for Reid, as the Democrat had recently and controversially labeled Nevada rancher Cliven Bundy and his supporters, who had protested federal agents reclaiming the alleged government farmland, as quote, domestic terrorists, for what Demeter says was simply an exercise of free speech. Well, much to his dismay, Demeter and the other top four winners of the Student Cam were scheduled to meet and greet Minority Leader Pelosi in the early afternoon, April 29th. Quote, I didn't want this opportunity to go to waste, Demeter remembers, even if it required stepping outside my comfort zone. Now, he did an excellent job. I'm gonna continue with this press release just to give you a little more background info. Plus, we're going to be joined by Demeter later on in this segment, and I'll share the video with you. Let's see what he has to say here. Let's play the video. I'll do a screen share, and then hopefully he'll be joining us shortly. So here we go. This is from the YouTube channel Teen Take. Check it out. It's already got over 100,000 views in just a couple of days. Data collection. Oh, let me restart this. Here's his question.
How do you support the NSA's illegal and ubiquitous data collection?
Well, I do not. I have questions about the metadata collection that they were collecting, unless they had a reason to do so. So I didn't support Amash, that resolution. I didn't think that was the appropriate resolution. But I do think that the burden is on the department, and I have fought them for years, on the community, fought them for years on the wide swath that they have put out there.
You did vote for a bill to continue funding for the NSA, though.
Yeah, of course. I don't think we should not fund the National Security Agency. No, they do many things.
Isn't the NSA a clear violation of the Fourth Amendment?
No. Some of what they do should be subjected to scrutiny in some of the things, but they perform many other functions as well, and we hold them to a high order. And I've had my biggest fight here in the intelligence community with the director of the NSA. Hayden, when he was the director, I don't think he was on the level with us. But that doesn't mean that there aren't other things that are there that are good things that are necessary for us to have. But from 9/11 on, the Bush administration went too far on all the.
All right, so this is breaking up. I don't know quite why the video is having some difficulties, but
to prove or
There's no getting through this psychobabble. Nancy Pelosi pretty much says no clear sentence there. She just babbles on incoherently, not responding to what was a very simple question. He asked her, didn't she support the NSA? Didn't she support funding them? And doesn't the NSA violate the Fourth Amendment? She couldn't answer any of those questions clearly. Now, joining us on the line is Andrew Demeter, the asker of that question, and the creator of many films, which you can watch over on YouTube at Teen Take. Andrew, how's it going tonight?
It's going great, Derrick. Thanks for having me on. I do want to tell you that the audio is a little weird and glitchy. It has a lot of bass to it, so if I can't understand a question, I just want to let you know that.
Okay, that's cool. We'll be able to get that sorted out in the next segment. But what was it like interviewing Nancy Pelosi? And have you ever done anything like this before?
Well, to answer your second question simply, I've never done anything like this before. As you read in the press release earlier, I'm usually an introverted type of person, but I was thinking of this before I came on, what really motivated me to do this, and that's simply that a lot of times in the world, in life, when you see an injustice, you just become so passionate about it that you kind of shed a layer of your true self, really, and just do different things that you wouldn't ordinarily do. And me confronting Pelosi, that was definitely something that I wouldn't ordinarily do, but being that she supports the NSA, like you mentioned, I just had a simple question: why do you support it? And evidently she doesn't really know why. So yeah, it was a really interesting experience. In the room I was with, like you mentioned, some of the other contestants from the C-SPAN documentary competition. And you can see in the video one of the mothers next to Pelosi's legislative assistant. She was actually smiling when I asked the question. And after we had walked out of the Capitol, she was saying, you know, did you plan this in advance? Did you look up her voting record the night before and everything? So she was actually apparently supportive, at least from what I perceived, of the confrontation. And obviously her legislative assistant's trying to cut me off mid-sentence, asking a hard-hitting question that Pelosi didn't want to answer. So yeah, it was an interesting experience. Never really done anything like that before.
Yeah, it was really cool, and I'm glad you had the opportunity, and you didn't waste it, as you said. You know, there was a girl in the video who was just nodding along with Nancy Pelosi's psychobabble as if it made sense. And it was so strange to me that people, not just young people, but people of all ages, nod along with the politicians as if what they're saying makes sense, when so often we know that it's just psychobabble. You mentioned behaving differently in your response to that first question, and I read a beautiful quote by Gustav Landauer that I wanted to share with the audience, and it just happens to fit really well with what you were saying. He said, quote, "The state is not something which can be destroyed by a revolution, but is a condition, a certain relationship between human beings, a mode of behavior. We destroy it by contracting other relationships, by behaving differently." And this is exactly how I see you acting with Nancy Pelosi. Like, she's not some special crown. She's just some regular lady who happens to make decisions on behalf of other people that affect other people's lives, and she's making the wrong choices here. You're calling her out for it. She wasn't comfortable, and she responded with psychobabble. Now, what's the media train been like? Who's been picking this up? I thought you were at InfoWars recently. Is that true?
Yeah, InfoWars picked it up just this morning, I believe. It was on LiveLeak as of yesterday. It has like 45,000 some views on there. On my YouTube channel independently, it has like 100,000 views now. It was just crazy, like 45 minutes ago, like an hour before this, it had 75,000 views, and then just half an hour later it bumped up right to 100,000. So it's definitely getting out there, and I'm glad. And I want to emphasize that this isn't something about me. It's not to publicize myself. It's to publicize the fact that there is hypocrisy, and that needs to be called out, where people, are making decisions contrary to what they're believing. That just needs to be straightened out.
Teen Take on YouTube. We will return with more PNN.
Shiny badges on your jacket. Shiny badges.
Okay, rock on. So, Andrew, you said my audio is coming through bassy.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
Okay. Well, I'm glad you can make it out clearly. It's coming through just fine on this end. And you sound crystal clear. Let me mess with some of my settings here. And also, if you have the opportunity to try Google Hangouts again, I have no idea why it wasn't working.
I can barely hear you right now. I can hear part of the.
Oh, here, I just muted the ads, so that should make it a little bit clearer for you.
Yeah, it's still got a lot of bass to it. I don't know what the issue is.
I'm going to check my connections on this end, but if you are able to connect over Google Hangouts, that's the best way that we could be connected. That would leave the Skype line open for other callers and such.
Okay, I'll try that again.
Okay. And I'll be checking my connections on this end too.
Okay, great.
Because I have had this complaint before. I'm in a new studio.
Great.
So,
awesome.
Well, yeah, it's awesome, except I need to make sure that everything sounds right.
Right. Alright, let me try Google Hangouts again.
Check, 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 check. 1, 2. All right. Yeah, that's right. Check, check. Okay, check, 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 check. Are you hearing me at all, Andrew? No. Okay. Check, 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 check. Hey, Andrew, can you hear me?
It's a lot of feedback. It's like really a really high frequency.
Okay, let me try again. Check, check. This is something else. Are you hearing me now? Check, 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 check. Anything? Anything now? Anything now? Anything now? Anything now? Anything now?
That's
check,
worse.
check. That's worse. Oh, jeez. Let me see. Check, 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 check. 1, 2. Check, check. Check, check. 1, 2. Is that any better?
Nope.
Oh, jeez. Well, I don't know what to do. Speakers, microphone. Check, check. 1, 2.
It's still the same.
Damn. Well, I don't know what to do. You can make out what I'm saying, right?
Yeah, it's just like it's just super bassy. Like it takes me a second to figure out kind of what you're saying. I mean, I can understand it. It's just a little difficult.
Well, do you want to disconnect? Do you want to do this another time? I can. I've got show material I can do, and I'd like to have you on at a time when I'm not blasting your ears with bass.
Should I just hang up and call you back and see if that helps, and then we can go from there?
Well, not on Skype, because I had this complaint before about Skype from other callers, and I haven't been able to fix it. So I'm connecting something incorrectly, clearly, or one of my wires is bad since I moved.
Did you check your settings on Skype? Your audio settings?
Yeah, I did. We're coming back, so hang tight.
amp.lrn.fm. That's amp.lrn.fm.
Welcome back to Peace News Now. We are live this Tuesday, June 3rd, 2014. We're speaking with Andrew Demeter, who is a 16-year-old from Cleveland, Ohio. And I like to focus on Andrew's work because he's doing something that other teens, other people ought to be doing, and he's setting a great example for others to follow. Namely, he produces videos. He produced a video about Bitcoin recently. He also produced this viral video, and he does it all from his YouTube channel, Teen Takes, or Teen Take, singular. And you can donate Bitcoin even. So I think we've even got Andrew joining us on video as well now. So Andrew, are you able to hear us?
Yeah, loud and clear.
Cool. That's terrific. I'm glad that we can see you as well as hear you, and you can hear us clearly. So, how long have you been producing videos?
I started in December of 2012, I think it was. I started right after the Sandy Hook shooting and started voicing my opinions out there and kind of getting myself gradually known, I guess you could say. So that's what I got started on. I started making opinionated rants and such, and then from there, you could see where that's taken me.
Well, you have a great way. It's your tone, I think. If anyone else had asked the same questions of Nancy Pelosi, I think that they would be considered rude or just aggressive or something. You know, like politicians always put on that defensive stance. But you were so polite and quiet and respectful. You were asking these questions just like any kind of interviewer would.
But most mainstream interviewers wouldn't.
That's a good point. Yeah. So you were asking the tough questions, and I don't know. It had to be a scary moment for you. I mean, did you at any time picture yourself being manhandled by Secret Service agents coming out of the woodwork and just knocking you over or taking you out, or what were you thinking?
I really can't say I did because there weren't any like huge masculine bodyguards or anything when I walked in. But you know, anymore I would never consider it outside the realm of possibility. But when I was there, I really just took advantage of the moment. You know, I did have this a little planned out in advance, but I essentially told myself, you know, this is possibly a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, especially after you do it, then that, of course, decreases your odds of it happening again. And I kind of just dove in head first and said, you know, I'm going to do this or I'm not. And you could see that I did make the decision to confront her on her hypocrisy.
I'd like to see more young people asking questions of people in power, because it's a peaceful act of resistance, just to ask these tough questions, because like you said, the mainstream media is just not willing to do it. What advice would you give to your peers if they're interested in producing videos like you do?
You know, I really don't know how much advice I could give them. I mean, half of them aren't even willing to listen to half the stuff I say, let alone put into action those beliefs and ideologies as well. But so advice-wise, I'm not really sure, but I do think it is interesting. I saw a lot of comments on some of the sites that had written articles on the confrontation, and many of them, some of the commenters said, you know, it would be really interesting demographically if a lot of younger people did start going out to ask these questions and everything to these high-profile names, because kind of unlike some of the other confrontations you see with not even older people, just people in their 20s and 30s doing these type of things, nobody wants to talk. But if there's a kid there and they're asking a question, I mean, it's a PR nightmare for them when middle-aged people try to confront them. But if it's just like a kid like my age trying to ask a genuine question, a legitimate question like I did to Pelosi, then it's really hard to back out of that and kind of just shoo them away.
So you've covered genetically modified organisms, the NSA, the Fourth Amendment, and Bitcoin. What's next?
You know, I'm just watching each day unfold and seeing what next, what news is going to be next. So I really don't know. Unfortunately, with the exception of the video I released yesterday, the Pelosi confrontation, I haven't been making too many videos. Solely because of the fact that school is essentially consuming my life. Even now, I just got off for summer and I already have like 3 books to read, 3 chapters of a history textbook to outline, a math packet to do, and all this ridiculous work. It's like summer's really non-existent. And combine that with trying to find a job and everything, when who knows, maybe the IRS is going to be trying to target and audit me for this confrontation, as some of the comments have said. But I really don't know what's next, so time will tell, but I'm always willing to have an open mind. And I actually did hear that Pelosi was apparently actually in Cleveland today, so that would have made it for an interesting follow-up story, but I figured I'd let her off this time.
What's the process like when you decide to produce video to completion? Like, what do you do to get that all put together?
Yeah, it really depends. I mean, for the Pelosi confrontation, that was a whole different story of trying to persuade C-SPAN into sending me the footage, which you can go into that if you'd like. But it's actually it's
That was C-SPAN's footage that we saw. It wasn't yours.
yeah. Well, that's the thing. So, do you want me to finish the first question, or do you want me to just go into this?
Yeah, either one. I
All right,
want to know about C-SPAN. Now I'm curious. Like that was their footage.
yeah, so what happened was I had my phone in my pocket, and it's no conspiracy for the people out there just wondering, just to clarify that. So my phone, I pulled it out, I started recording it, I just had it kind of down by my side, and I pressed record on the phone while some other people were asking questions, because essentially the process of this, I didn't really jump in, as some might believe, and ask for the question. What happened was, of the 5 or so contestants, each of them, Pelosi went around to each of them, asked them what their documentary was about, and if they had a question for her pertaining to it. So when like 2 or 3 people in front of me were asking their questions, I took out my phone, pressed record on the phone, just held it at my side to kind of stay inconspicuous, and then once I asked her the question, as you can see, then I pulled up the phone and started recording. But the thing was, my phone ran out of memory halfway through the recording, despite the fact that it still had the numbers displaying, counting up in the recording. So it would say like 1 minute, 1 minute, 1 second, etc. So even though it was doing that, apparently it didn't actually record to the memory. So then when I got out of the little room with Pelosi, I guess, an employee from C-SPAN, who I'm not going to name because I still have respect for him, I don't think he's up to anything nefarious, but when we were walking back to C-SPAN from the Capitol, he said, you know, I saw you recording with your phone. Were you planning on putting that on YouTube? And at the time, still thinking that I had the full recording, I maybe even snobbishly kind of remarked, you know, why does it matter? Why do you care? And then he said, and I can't quote it directly because I don't remember specifically, but he said something to the effect of, well, we wouldn't want to damage C-SPAN's relationship with Pelosi. Now, before people take that the wrong way or misconstrue it, you know, he probably just means for specific coverage or what specific access they're given. But still, I found that really interesting. And then eventually, when I got home back from my flight, I then discovered, unfortunately, that the confrontation on my phone, only 4 minutes was recorded instead of the full 8 minutes, and I'll tell you the rest when we get back.
All right, Andrew Demeter of Teen Take. He interviewed Pelosi, and it went pretty awesome. We'll be right back.
Why did you move to the Shire?
Okay, cool. And you can hear those ads, right?
There's other people around who
Yeah, I hear them.
And everything sounds and works the way it should?
Yep.
Okay, very good.
Thought that I could get support.
I'm going to mute those ads for now and put up what I use to raise funds for Peace News Now, which during commercial breaks, I put up a QR code so that people can scan it. I'm running a little late today because there was a kerfuffle in Keene Central Square. I shouldn't joke, though. Someone was seriously injured, not a member of Free Keene, not a member of Stop Free Keene. He just was some random local who was chalking, and someone didn't like that, and they hurt him, and his neck, I don't know if his neck is broken or what, but he needed to go to the hospital. So, yeah, so I just came back from that, and it was a real scene. I can't understand what... Peaceful resistance gets, I don't know, it gets hard sometimes. So, all right, well, we'll be talking about that in the second hour, though. For now, folks, if you are enjoying this conversation, you can make a donation to Peace News Now by scanning any of the QR codes that you see on your screen. We accept Dogecoin, Litecoin, Feathercoin, Namecoin, and, of course, Bitcoin. And viewers like you have sponsored this show since its inception in 2012. It has been entirely funded in cryptocurrency, not a dime of the king's dollars. So thank you to all of you who donate to make this show possible. We'll be back in just a couple more minutes with Andrew Demeter. Hey, and by the way, Andrew, am I pronouncing that correctly? Is it Demeter or?
Yeah, it's Demeter. At the beginning you had it wrong, but don't worry, everyone does that, so
all right.
It's all good.
Well, cool. All right.
Oh, and also I should make it a point too. And by the way, is my video like in a square box or is it in a rectangle?
You are in a rectangle.
Okay, because for me it's just showing like the square, and it's kind of annoying. But this is the shirt I specifically picked out for this interview.
Oh, sweet! Where'd you get that?
I can't remember. I mean, I think I just got it online, or my mom got it for me. I don't remember specifically, but very fitting.
That's a nice mic too. But the shirt I chose to wear today is a Bitcoin shirt.
Uh-huh. Very nice.
Yes. So what mic are you using?
It's a Samson CO1U.
Oh yeah. Okay, cool.
And I have a mic stand for it too, but I'm just kind of holding it.
That's what I'm doing today. I'm in the new studio and I ordered a desk and it's not here yet. So like I don't want to secure my microphone arms to just like the wall or something. So I'm gonna wait another day or two for the desk and I'll have to hold it.
Very nice.
All right. Well, we're back in 40 seconds.
All right.
Hey, what's going on? Come on in. We're on a break right now.
Because you are judged by
Here,
how you speak.
I'm doing an interview. Do you want to sit in?
Especially if you're
Okay.
a job
You want
seeker.
ears?
For instance, do you know the difference between imply and infer? Only a speaker can imply. Only a listener can infer. And when you say you'll be out of pocket, do you mean out of touch? Out of pocket means you're on your own dime, not yet
So let's
reimbursed.
just it'll be just me
And
on
if
video
anyone
for
ever
now, but you
asks,
can listen in.
why do you always answer a question with a question? You should reply, do I do that? Just kidding. From survivalspeech.com, I'm Holland Cook.
You can put the Liberty Radio Network on the air in your area. Visit broadcast.lrn.fm to learn how. Broadcast.lrn.fm.
Peace News Now. We're talking with Andrew Demeter, who confronted Nancy Pelosi about the NSA recently in a video that's now going viral. He's had coverage from Infowars.com, LiveLeak, and a few other places, and I expect this video to make the rounds. I am so impressed with the work that you've done, Andrew. What inspires you? I mean, you've produced these videos. They're so professional. You're only 16. It makes me wonder, why do you even bother with school?
It's a good question. Well, you know, the state just likes to impose that upon others, and they don't really buy into the non-aggression principle and the fact that good ideas don't require force. So that's why.
So are you saying you go to school because it's compulsory?
Pretty much, I would say that's a valid reason. I think that an individual can educate themselves on the world and perhaps even more important topics as discussed in school by educating themselves, homeschooling and the like. So I don't condemn anyone for going to schools, but I don't think that it's necessarily important to educating oneself, I guess.
Do you feel like it gets in your way personally?
Yeah, I mean, without trying to sound all depressing and stuff, I mean, yeah, it does take up a lot of my time, and I just got done with finals last week, and honestly, it just seems like a big waste of time, to be completely honest. I mean, it seems like the whole premise of finals and exams and everything, and even just smaller tests, is to retain information, but from what I've experienced personally and what I've seen with peers around me, it just seems like a big fest of memorization, and once you take the test, once you scribble in your answers and regurgitate them, you retain nothing, you never use it again in most cases, with some exceptions, and it just seems like a big waste of time. So we're occupied so our parents can work, and then we can perpetuate that cycle for future generations.
It is a waste, and that's why I wonder why you're doing it, because you can see so clearly. Like when I was in school, when I was 16, I worked my butt off to be the best student I could possibly be. I was a hyperachiever and early to school and always leaving late. And I thought that it was going to get me somewhere. Like, I thought, achievement in school means you've climbed the next rung, and if you don't do that, then you just won't be successful. And then I learned...
I think that's the problem, because in today's society, obviously we can change it, but so many people are just apathetic. In today's society, a piece of paper, a diploma, somehow constitutes skills in life, and that's essentially a prerequisite to getting a decent job. So unfortunately, that's just the way the system works, and I think that's how it was manufactured to work.
So you don't feel comfortable stepping outside of that realm? You still feel like you have to go to school? And I don't mean to pressure you one way or another. I mean, of course, I'd like to see everyone ditch the public schools. I don't know what kind of school you're in at all, but is leaving something you've considered doing just to pursue your passions with video, media, and journalism?
Well, you see, it's kind of a difficult thing, because it's like with the internet now, with how decentralized journalism has become. Heck, me, just an average teenage kid, can now become an alleged journalist, really. I think there's a lot to be said for that, but the fact is, I mean, you don't really know how reliable that's going to be as a full-fledged occupation to fall on, and it's just really a question of reliability. And I'm not saying that somehow getting a diploma makes me any more prepared, but I mean, that's, in a way, it's following the crowd, and I fully admit that. But I mean, I think that's one of the ways to succeed in life, in some sense.
Where do you get your news from?
I get my news mostly just from the internet. I mean, I seldom watch TV, but specific sources, RT, Russia Today, the propaganda arm of Putin and the Russian government. I like a lot of what they do. I watch Abby Martin Breaking the Set. I love that show.
What bias do you think they have?
What's that?
What kind of bias do you filter when you watch RT?
Anything that I watch anymore, it's difficult to filter, but I mean, nothing in my perception is objective. Even C-SPAN, as we talked about earlier, isn't necessarily unbiased. They're not necessarily objective. So I think whatever you do, you always have some sort of tainted bias towards it, whether it's perpetuated by the network, whether it's perpetuated by the viewer, or if it's what both parties are doing. So, I mean, there's bias regardless, but you just have to question everything, and that means question why you should question everything, and that infinite regress that is questioning.
So sometimes when there are like YouTube celebrities in a school, or even regular celebrities like Macaulay Culkin and stuff, they have a following at their school. Do you have a clique or anyone who follows you on YouTube, or is this a popular thing among your peers?
I mean, I know a lot of people at school know that I do this type of stuff. Heck, C-SPAN, to kind of a little bit of my dismay, as I'm kind of the introvert, they held this whole assembly at my school in front of the entire grade. Thankfully, it wasn't the whole school. So yeah, a lot of people at my school are aware about what I'm doing. I don't think that necessarily correlates that they agree with what I'm doing, but I'm just happy to see that it's at least opening their minds, because I'll be on Instagram some days and I'll just see someone who I really never talked to in the hallways post a picture of what they're eating, and it'll say non-GMO or organic on it. So again, whether they agree with that or disagree with it is up to them, obviously, but it's at least inspiring that I'm making that much of an impact on their lives, that they're saying that they're taking the time to take a picture and they're thinking of me, and whether they process what that information is or whether it goes in one ear out the other, at least they're thinking, and I think that's really what it's all about.
What do you think is the most important issue for people your age to face?
I was asked this in an interview with Leanne McAdoo of InfoWars, and I'll say the same thing to you. I don't really think I'd pinpoint it on a specific issue, because there's so many issues that are so important. GMOs, one of my favorite topics, or lack thereof. I'd put that pretty...
Put the debt.
What's that?
Where do you put the debt on the scale of important issues?
You know, I really don't know. But Bitcoin is definitely promising, taking away the ability of these men in suits to print their own money and fund nefarious things like wars. But as far as the most important issue, GMOs is high on the ladder for me only because, and the same with water, fluoridation, for example. I mean, these things are necessary for life. So those are two important issues: water fluoridation, and GMOs. But what I was going to say first was that I wouldn't pinpoint it to a specific issue because I think the most important thing for people to do is simply to wake up out of this paradigmatic box of conformity and apathy, and to just start questioning, taking the pill of reality instead of the pill of illusion and comfort, and simply waking up to the fact that, maybe the authority in our country isn't always right. Maybe what's legal isn't always right. So by kind of questioning what's happening, going against the status quo, I think that's what people should really be focused on doing.
You said that your peers aren't really motivated. You said that they're apathetic about some of these issues. Are there any of the issues that have really lit a fire under some of your peers?
Fire in a negative sense.
No, I mean in a good way. Is there anything that they get jived or excited about? Like, I would assume GMOs is something that any person, any age can get behind, because we all need to eat. Is there one issue that a lot of the students stand behind?
I don't know about necessarily standing behind, but one that they are kind of vehemently opposed to, seemingly, is GMOs, and they're really they think GMOs are great, and that's their opinion. That's fine, but they make these erroneous claims, and they'll kind of almost taunt me. Of course, I'm not really fragile. Or all right, we'll finish this after the break. Thanks.
The central scrutinizer.
All right.
Steal your labor by force.
You close that out in time. I think you're all right.
All right.
So we are on a 4-minute break, and then we have the final segment. It's just 10 minutes. And in studio, I have Rich Paul. I don't know if you know Rich Paul. He's a freedom activist here in New Hampshire. And I'm going to hand him a microphone so that he can join during this break at least.
All right.
And how you doing, Rich?
I'm doing great.
I think maybe I turned that mic off or something. Maybe I don't have it plugged in correctly. Give us another shout.
Testing.
I'm not getting anything from it.
Testing.
I wonder if I broke it. Here, let me unplug it and replug it.
Yeah, that's what I told him to do if I ever ended up on right.
Yeah, I'll give
Me
some
too.
ads.
Oh, would you look at those? Aren't those just swell? Don't tread
Check,
on
check,
meme.com.
check.
While you're browsing their numerous silver dime
Check,
card
check,
designs, take
Something's
time to
coming through.
download the
Check.
easy-to-use silver calculator.
Check. Something through, but oh, it's probably. I don't know.
Listen to the Liberty Radio Network via the cam feed in high quality 24/7, even when there's no live show being produced in our Keene studio. But wait, there's more. Our chat room is built into the cam page so you can interact with other listeners online. Listen, watch, and chat. All free at cam.lrn.fm. That's cam.lrn.fm. Free Talk Live.
I wouldn't snitch them out. I would report them to the police.
Right. Okay, now
Call
what you want. Now, many states have laws about carrying firearms, even though their constitutions say that it's legal for everyone to own a firearm.
Like New York State.
There's no way to ban it. Would you snitch out somebody that you knew had a firearm?
If they had it illegally, I wouldn't snitch them out. I would report them.
Right. I got to say, you're a bad American, Ken.
Yeah, I think you're a scumbag, Ken. You're a communist.
I'm a communist because I want people to be able to carry guns like the Second Amendment says.
He'd snitch on the person, and then the cops would come and infringe it for him. Felons out there carrying guns at will.
I'm a convicted felon. Do you think I shouldn't be able to protect my wife from an intruder?
I don't think you should have a gun.
How am I going to protect myself if the guy has a gun?
Check.
You should call the cops, Mark, like any good citizen.
That way the cops can come clean up my corpse after it's all over, right?
Free Talk Live, 7 nights a week from 7 to 10 Eastern, live on the Liberty Radio Network at lrn.fm. You can connect with the Liberty Radio Network via our Facebook page at facebook.lrn.fm. That's facebook.lrn.fm.
Welcome back. It's the final segment of the first hour. We are joined by Andrew Demeter of Cleveland, Ohio. He had an interesting week, and he has an interesting life story. This teen covers real journalistic issues, things like GMOs, the NSA, the Fourth Amendment, Bitcoin, and this is stuff that most people aren't covering, let alone people who are still going through a high school workload. It's amazing, and I was really impressed to see your press release, Andrew. How did you think to create a press release and put it out on Pastebin? It was pretty professional. I mean, do you have parents who are journalists, or how did you know to do all this?
No, I just kind of started writing for fun, I guess. I started kind of amassing a collection of words that made me sound professional, because that's what the politicians do. And you know, I've just kind of learned by reading other articles and the writings of other people. So that's kind of how I wrote it up, and it kind of served primarily as a time capsule for me, because I had a list of bulleted points that I wanted to cover, and I just wanted to get everything out there clearly and have something that everyone could refer to, so things weren't misconstrued along the way.
Would you do an ambush interview? Like, one of my favorite YouTube channels to follow is Ridley Report, and he does what are called ambush interviews of politicians, where he'll go to some city council meeting, for example, wait by the door, and then when the politicians walk by, he'll ask them a gotcha question, or just some relatively difficult question that maybe isn't a gotcha. Would you be interested in doing more of these types of interviews, these types of ambush interviewing?
Well, I don't want to spoil my future plans, you know, have the NSA uncover them. No, yeah, I'd like to do more in the future, but I think it is important that you bring that up to preface the fact that I am non-violent. I'm not going to like slap these politicians or do anything violent. You know, I'm simply there asking a question, and if people want to make comments half jokingly, half true, that, you know, oh, the IRS is going to target my family, you know, I'm going to be taken off in the night and taken to Guantanamo Bay. You know, if that's what this country's come to, and that's how people react to these things, whether they're joking or, like I said, they're realistically thinking these things, then I think that's very sad, and it's very symbolic. You know, in the back of the video, in the back of the confrontation, you could see in Pelosi's office, she had this flag there, and obviously there's no wind in the room, but it was kind of wilted. And I think that's really symbolic of what this country's come to under the conditions shown in my video, that Pelosi is just so hypocritical. She's saying, oh, well, when the Bush administration is implementing these policies of data collection ubiquitously, in essence, after 9/11, then that's not okay. But when the same policies are implemented under the Obama administration, that's Democrat, that's the same party as me, Nancy Pelosi, that is, then when it's masqueraded under that, and it's the same side of the party line, then that's absolutely okay. So I think it's really symbolic, and I think that it shows the true detachment that these representatives, or lack thereof, have. And it just shows how detached they are from the Constitution.
Tell me more about how persistent or assertive you had to be in getting the video that you eventually posted to YouTube. I see in your press release you have a quote from you asking C-SPAN, could you please send me the contact info of the cameraman who filmed the B-roll shots during our trip to the Capitol? And C-SPAN responds with a redacted comment saying, blank is the gentleman who recorded the event, and I have him copied in this email. I'll relay, however, that our agreement for the rest of blah, 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 the audio would not be able to be used. It was an omission on my part not to relay that to you. And you said, with all due respect, I would view C-SPAN's unwillingness to kindly provide me with the aforementioned clip as a conflict of the network's philosophy of neutrality and unbiasedness. Where do you get off writing to C-SPAN like that? I mean, who do you think you are?
Well, I think it's important to mention two things here. One, I'm not against C-SPAN. I value their work. And when actually, this is what I was getting to before we got cut off by the break, after we left the Capitol, when we were on our way back to C-SPAN, my father and I were in the elevator. We rode up to the third floor, which is C-SPAN's floor. The other two floors are like Fox and MSNBC, and because they all want to get the view of the Capitol in the background. And when we got out of the elevator, as I mentioned in the press release, Brian Lamb, the founder of C-SPAN, came out. He had already heard news of this, apparently, and he essentially, I don't want to quote him for anything because I don't remember explicitly, but to my memory, he essentially kind of almost congratulated me and encouraged me on this honest journalism, and I think that speaks volumes to C-SPAN in that regard. But also this employee almost trying to silence me. But again, I'm not gonna say anything bad about him because I don't know if that was what he was thinking, or if that was anything that was handed down to him, or if there was a legitimate agreement. And then the second thing that's important to mention is the fact that C-SPAN, they wouldn't send me the clip apparently because the audio wasn't allowed to be used per this imaginary agreement with Pelosi's office. And the funny thing with that is, and I have video footage to prove it, I don't know if you could see it in the video that's already on YouTube, but C-SPAN's cameraman, when we were walking throughout the Capitol and during when we were in with Pelosi, he had this massive condenser microphone. Not only, and it's not like it was some internal microphone, it was an external, like, massive, like, 2-foot-long microphone that he was holding out to capture audio. So C-SPAN's not allowed to record audio. It's an omission on this C-SPAN employee's part not to relay that to the group, but C-SPAN's blatantly recording audio, supposedly for B-roll footage. It didn't make sense to me.
That's a real common theme. You know, there are folks who have been charged with felonies here in New Hampshire for the crime of recording public officials like not on their way to work, not while they're shopping in the store, but at work while they're acting in their public capacity as public officials, recording their audio, and the government sees fit to charge these people with felonies for that crime. So, you know, you're very lucky that you were able to get the audio of this senator, right, or representative, rather.
Minority leader.
Yeah, so, I mean, she purports to work for the public, but what, she can't be recorded in public?
But
what's
see,
with that?
That's the irony of the whole scenario, too, that they don't want to be recorded. How dare we keep them accountable to their vote? But so they don't want to be recorded, but then conversely, the whole American public can be surveilled with dragnet surveillance. So it's absolute hypocrisy.
Why does that issue matter to you? As a young person, you don't have any private info out there, so why do you care?
It's just, I heard this in a recent article or an interview or something. It's like, if it's difficult for people to imagine. They say, if I'm not doing anything wrong, then why do I care? Well, two things. One, Derrick, how about you, if you have nothing to hide, let's just hypothetically say that, and you've done nothing wrong, so you're fine with the NSA, then just hand over your email password and your Facebook password and all that type of information, your social security number, etc. So, and Adam Kokesh did an awesome Man on the Street video, I think, pertaining to this before, too. He went right in front of the White House and had people give them their phones, you know, put in the passcode to get into your phone. Oh, yeah, these are some interesting text messages. And people get uncomfortable. Whether you have something to hide or not, it's weird, in my perspective, to have people looking through information that's absolutely none of their business. And the second thing I was going to mention is currently fleeting from my memory, so...
Well, that's all right. I was just curious, I mean, how these issues affect you. When I was 16, I'm trying to imagine, like, one of the only things that I cared about as far as social justice issues was Guantanamo Bay. There was, Guantanamo Bay had just started, I think, and I was like, well, that seems really wrong. How could they just throw people in a jail without giving them any trial, and they just allege that they committed some horrific crime, and then they spend 10 years in there without any trial? That doesn't seem...
I mean, and with the NDAA nowadays, who knows, maybe I'm next for asking a godforsaken question.
Well, it just is interesting to see how much times have changed, even though I feel like it wasn't that long ago. Because now you're talking about how you're worried about the IRS. When you want to get a job, you're worried that you're going to be a target because of the questions you've asked. Well, this has been an interesting interview, Andrew, and I can't believe how time has flown. Unfortunately, that sound means it's the end of this segment. When we return, we'll be back with Rich Paul and Joel Valenzuela of thedesertlinks.com. Our guest in this hour has been Andrew Demeter. Check him out on YouTube at youtube.com/teentake.
Thanks so much.
We're struggling.